Overwhelmed with online, or just wanting to learn more about how you can build a successful business amidst all of the self-appointed gurus, big buzzwords and empty promises? The Breaking Digital podcast by Doyle tells you exactly what smart entrepreneurs need to know to escape the clutter, get clear of the confusion, and pass the bullshit of building and growing a successful business online. It's about digital leadership and delivering the best value for your business online to your audience. Now, here's your host and author of the book on digital leadership and online marketing, The Digital Delusion, Doyle Buehler.
Hello and welcome to Breaking Digital, the podcast for smart entrepreneurs wanting to become true digital leaders in their industry and to own online. I'm Doyle Buehler, and I am so excited to be bringing you a special guest today. I'm really looking forward to helping you learn more about what you can be doing online and helping you to do it better. And if you have any comments throughout the program, please feel free to connect on Twitter at Doyle Buehler with the hashtag #OwnOnline. You can also find the resources that we talk about, as well as the podcast for download on iTunes or thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. All right, let's get started. All right, hello and good afternoon. Today I'm going to be speaking with the amazing Alex Rodriguez. He is the founder of the digital marketing company, yummymarketing.com, and author of the amazing book on digital marketing and developing your online presence, Digital Bacon. So welcome, Alex. How are you today?
Hey, Doyle. Thank you so much. I'm great.
Yeah. Fantastic. So tell me a little bit about yourself and sort of your roots of getting into the digital leadership space.
Yeah, so like you said, I am Director of Creative Strategy here at Yummy Marketing. We are a creative digital agency here in Tampa, Florida, the United States. And Yummy Marketing has existed for 3 years. We just turned 3 in January in 2016.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's pretty recent. But I've been in the industry for 2 decades myself, working mostly in the advertising agency world, creative production world, et cetera, et cetera. And then little by little, what I've done is kind of migrated towards a little bit more of a balance between a strategic approach and also without losing my creative background. But this is what we do. We help successful companies raise their visibility, evolve their brand, and attract more business. And like you said, we've published our approach in our book, Digital Bacon, where it just kind of shows our workflow on how we work with our clients and hopefully help people out who need one kind of a solid approach from beginning to end on how to raise their visibility as well.
Yeah, and so you had me, two of my favorite things, right? Digital and bacon.
Absolutely.
So you had me at bacon, so how did you come up with that title?
Well, it's interesting because I started the conceptual phase of the book because I wanted to talk about the process to go from having a business to getting that business being seen online, and what is the process to get there. So what I did was I really looked into hundreds and hundreds of digital campaigns and what they did to be successful, to have that presence, that solid presence online. And what I discovered were that the successful campaigns had 5 qualities in common. These 5 things kept reoccurring and reoccurring. And to you and I, it may seem very basic, but to somebody that is just a business owner and maybe, is a specialist at what they do in business, they may not be aware of these 5 qualities as we might be. So I thought I'd just put it out there kind of as a simple formula to understand those 5 qualities. And then it just so happened that the 5 qualities could be spelled in an acronym that just resulted in the word bacon. So
come on, you planned that from the beginning.
No, the truth is I wanted to write a book on bacon.
I wanted to have that acronym. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's actually quite funny. That it actually turned out that way and everything worked out nicely.
So do you have like a pro-vegan or vegetarian version as well? Or
it's funny that I don't, and I've actually received some inquiries to speak and to engage with people in the Middle East and the people that have reached out to me, because mostly Muslim countries and things like that. They say, listen, you're going to have to publish a new edition of your book because that's not acceptable over here. And I'm like, ah, shoot.
How do you translate bacon though?
Yeah, exactly. It just becomes a little bit of an issue. But I've had the good fortune only to kind of live in Europe, the United States, and in Latin America, and at least it's been well received by the majority.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can see it. Why? What wouldn't see how it would be otherwise. You have Spanish heritage. How what's the word for bacon in Spanish?
It's in Spanish. Yeah, it's funny because the proper word is tocino,
Tocino.
or tocineta. That's kind of the Spanish word. But as with many other English terms, we've kind of adopted a lot of these English terms into our daily language.
Mm,
So instead of saying panqueque, we say pancake in Spanish. So
okay.
in the same vein, we instead of saying tocino, many people say, "Oh, I'll eat a hamburger with bacon." We just use the word bacon. So
Okay.
I actually published my book in Spanish, and I dared to use the word bacon in the title, Bacon Digital.
Hmm.
So, but in the pages of the book, I actually had to say and explain, yeah, I know the term is tocino, but in Spanish we can also use this term, and it's been well received. It really has not been a shock to anybody.
Excellent, excellent. So your sort of overriding message is related to creativity and strategy, if I understand that correctly, in terms of building that digital leadership. So how do you kind of combine the two, strategy and creativity, because they seem a little bit separate?
Yeah,
How do you tie
absolutely.
them together?
Absolutely. We have heard again, time and again, that you either are a left brain person or a right brain person, right? That's kind of the banter again and again, and sort of that overriding notion has caused us to identify with one side or the other. Well, I'm a left brain person, so I am better for analytics, numbers, and calculations and things like that. Or I'm a right brain person, and I'm the guy that's going to worry about the color palette and the copywriting and graphic design and things like that. But number one, the science on that has been a little bit sketchy. So it's been questioned in recent times whether we are actually natively a left brain or right brain person, but rather it's more like we have different modes. It's almost like a shift gear car, where you shift gear from gear one, gear two, et cetera, et cetera. Well, human beings, we also have different gears. When we are up to an analytical job, we get into more an analytical mode, and then creative, we just kind of go into that mode. Now, that doesn't mean that each one of us as human beings are not probably have not exercised one of these aspects a little bit more. So let's say, for example, my background is in creative production. I also play the piano, I draw, I paint, all these things that are very creative. So therefore, I have more of an experience exercising my creative muscles, so to speak. But at the same time, I am fascinated with numbers and analytics, and I number crunch and live in digital marketing on a spreadsheet and whatnot because I think I enjoy the importance. Am I as capable at doing that as the creative aspects? Probably not, but that doesn't mean that when I am approaching a marketing job, a campaign job, I cannot put my hat, so to speak. Let's think a little bit more strategically here, or this is the time to think a little bit more creatively. What the conclusion of this message is that it's a self-limiting thought to say, "Oh, this is not me because I'm not a creative person," or "This is not me, I'm not an analytical person." It's rather just looking at your strengths and weaknesses and seeing what you can do to improve on that sense. Because at the end of the day, the better you can take on those creative and strategic roles at a time, I think the better we can think in 100% of our capacities, right? So when we're looking at promoting our businesses, when we're looking at reaching an audience, these are actions that take both creative and strategic approaches. The creative without strategy is just completely
It's drawing.
useless. Yeah, it's useless.
Yeah.
But strategy without creative is just doesn't have a soul, right? You have to think with both aspects in order to reach an audience, to compel them and actually fulfill your goals.
Yeah, no, fascinating. And I find it interesting too that yeah, we're kind of led to believe that we have to, sort of use each side of our brain, but it's like for most of us, I would have no idea how to turn that on and off kind of thing. But the point is that it's a matter of combining those two things, and I really think that you've sort of hit the nail on the head in terms of what do businesses online have to do, and it's not just about being creative, but it's also having a strategy behind that creativity, and
Absolutely.
vice versa. Like if you don't have a strategy, it doesn't matter what you're putting out there. There's going to be no congruency, there's going to be no consistency,
Yep.
that sort of thing. So how do
Yep.
you sort of can you sort of outline how you would build those two together then?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that before creativity and strategy, and this is kind of goes back to my book, The Bacon Formula. The very first step of the Bacon Formula is be based on reality.
Yeah.
So before you even embark on creating a strategy or brainstorming ideas and things like that, the important thing is to really take a look at what is the reality. What is the reality of your market? What is the reality of your current online efforts, your current digital efforts? Has everything been performing? Has it not? What are things that, what does the competitive landscape look like? Because these are facts and truths that you'll need to factor into your creative approach and your strategic approach. For example, if you're creating a strategic plan, but you're not aware of your competitive landscape, you're bound to sort of be blindsided by some kind of reality along the way that you may not have accounted for at the very beginning. So I think this is the very first step is to just observe your reality. What is the reality of your offer, your landscape, your competitive landscape, your market, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I would think that the first one, just chronologically, not first in importance, but first chronologically, to embark on is a strategic plan. Just because it's kind of a shame that you invest resources, time,
Can you maybe,
budgets.
sorry, Alex, can you maybe
Go ahead.
just sort of define what a strategic plan is? Because I think a lot of times businesses get confused between a strategic plan and a business plan.
Right, absolutely. And there's another confusion also that we can touch upon, which is the confusion between tactics and strategy. So when we're talking about a strategic plan, all we're talking about is number one, defining what is your goal. So for example, a brand, or let's say an offer under a brand that is a direct response goal, right? Well, you'll have very, very strict and very defined key performance indicators, right, for a direct response campaign, right? You have sales, you've got revenue, et cetera, et cetera. But then at the other side, you may have a brand that has a message that is more based on awareness, right? You're looking for that awareness factor. Let's say, for example, you have a nonprofit cause, right? And for a nonprofit, that doesn't mean that their ultimate goal may not be,
To
getting
make
donation.
profit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
actually had
getting.
I had
Go
this
ahead.
conversation yesterday where we were talking about nonprofits, and a not-for-profit business still has to generate a profit. It's what they do with those profits that's the key, right?
Exactly.
They
That's the
put
key
them
part.
back into the community, whatever the case may be, but they still have to fundamentally have a business, which is to generate profit. It's what they
Yeah.
do with it that's different.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It has to be sustainable and everything like that. But in the case, like the big difference, I would think, is that a direct response business will have a direct goal of generating sales, whereas a nonprofit would be maybe generating donations. However, the donation is probably secondary to the awareness of the cause that they're trying to espouse. So therefore, that awareness will require a completely different strategic plan than a direct sale campaign. So it's all about really defining what is that ultimate metric that's going to define whether what you embark on is successful or not at the end of the day. And once you define that, then you can define a series of actions, which we would call tactics. What are the series of actions that will actually affect that key performance indicator?
So we take the strategy, sort of that fundamental value, that fundamental essence, and say, hey, how do we actually do it? And that's our tactics. Is that correct?
Exactly. So if our goal at the end of the day is we need to make 100 sales by the end of the month, then how can we backtrack from that and say, okay, what will cause those sales, and then what are the actions that will affect that cause for that sale, et cetera, et cetera. So then we just kind of build almost like a chain reaction effect, and that is what becomes our strategic plan.
Fascinating. Okay. And so can you sort of go through the other steps? Like what is the full acronym for BACON?
Yeah, exactly. So we just talked about the first one, based on reality. The
Yeah.
second one is aimed towards result, which is kind of what we touched upon with the strategic phase. Then the third one, knowing our strategy, then we can walk into how do we flesh that out into all its creative manifestation, which is creatively developed. That's the C on the Bacon formula, creatively developed. So now that we know our strategy, we can identify the assets that we need to move our strategy forward. So our assets include our branding, includes our web presence, landing pages, ad copy, ad visuals, et cetera, et cetera. But now that we know our strategic goal, that informs our creative approach. So our creative is not going to be kind of like fine arts where it's just human expression, right? This is more creative with a goal in mind and with a very clearly defined goal. So, for example, if our strategy is to reach a certain segment of the population, where our creative approach will be informed by that and will generate creative that appeals to that segment of the population. So that's kind of what we talk about in the production phase, the creative production phase. After that, our next phase in the Bacon formula, the O, stands for organize and propagation. Because once we develop these assets, these creative assets, what we'll want to do is to spread them around the world or around the geographic area that our target market is located at. So our that's what we call a distribution phase. We're basically choosing our channels, selecting our channels to distribute our creative assets. And then the final portion of the Bacon formula is numerically measured. And this also goes back to what we were talking about, kind of the analysis phase, being a little bit analytical on measuring our performance, and not just measuring it, but actually determining ways to correct and to increase our performance, getting better performance for the budget that we're spending. I was just talking maybe 2 hours ago with one of my clients where we cut our budget in half, but yet increased our performance by 200%. And how could we do that? Well, we did that because we had a basis of analytics, and we could say, well, actually, there's a little bit of wasted expenditure here. Let's dedicate this to strengthening this portion of the campaign, which is performing best. And therefore, at the end of the day, we let it slide for a little bit, for a little bit longer, and we increased our performance by double, by twofold.
Excellent. Okay, cool. That's a fantastic formula. And moving on from there, when I see bacon, it makes me really, really happy. But
Absolutely.
I have to ask you this, what makes you angry about online or angry about online business?
Well, I think that the one thing that I really try to move away from is the hyperbole, right? It's the notion that utilizing one or two tactics is going to solve all your business problems, right? And this we went through very heavily, and I guess at least from what I can perceive, it's died down a little bit. But we went through it very heavily, let's say 6 or 7 months ago, with the whole craze about how social media was transforming the world, and this was the panacea and the end all be all to have success in business. And you'd see these huge social media conferences saying, this was the best thing in the world, and this and that. And what we saw was that these, the bigger social media channels moved more and more towards a paid advertising method. And they realized that all this investment in organic social media and pretending that you as a brand could become one of the 10 friends of your target audience was a little bit disingenuous. So at the end of the day, all this investment in one tactic ended up being a little bit, smoke and mirrors. And I think that even though that may not be the case right now where people have sort of seen the light in what social media really is for, which definitely has a very important part in our business communication. I think that every time we go through phases and we see, oh yeah, this tactic is going to be the next big thing in business, I think that it's a refusal to seeing things a little bit more broad spread, strategic, and creative on really how is our target audience engaging with communication, with digital communication, and how can we reach them in a way that serves them better rather than just investing ourselves in one of these tactics. I think that's the thing that just kind of it grinds my gears, so to speak, to use digital language.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a little bit exaggerated, and at the end of the day, the people that end up being mostly effective, I think, are small business owners who just buy into this notion that just investing in one thing is going to solve all their problems.
Yeah, exactly. I would have to agree with you there. It's kind of that silo thinking, that silo mentality
Right.
that has sort of developed across the whole industry. I mean, only because, look, it's a pretty new industry kind of thing. So the so-called experts and that sort of thing have said, well, you need social media, and oh yeah, you need SEO, and yeah, you need analytics and all that. So you've kind of built that across sort of that, so that these expectations is that, oh, well, let's just talk about social media. Let's just talk about such and such, not understanding that, hey, all these different pieces have to fit together properly.
Right,
And,
right. Well, I can give an example of a client of mine that just came, talked to me, and he was looking for added services for what we were already providing. And in this instance, he's looking to create a campaign for a very specific service that he's about to launch. So he says, listen, Alex, one of the things that drives me crazy is that I talked to an SEO guy, and he says that the solution to my problems is SEO. So I talked to a Facebook guy, and he says the solution to my
it's got to
problems
be
is Facebook.
Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody is saying that whatever they provide is the solution to their problem.
Well,
And,
that's
and
because they're motivated specifically by what they're selling. Because
exactly,
yeah, it's the Facebook company, it's the Twitter company, it's the SEO company.
exactly.
Yeah, and I found that so challenging as well because people are still looking. Well, I need to SEO my site, and it's like, well, you do, but you kind of have to connect the other elements as well. So
Right.
there's this whole misunderstanding, unfortunately.
Yeah.
How would you kind of overcome that type of thing, like with your market and your clients and that sort of thing?
Well, to continue the example of this client that I
Yes,
spoke to
yes, yeah.
this week, I mean, we sat down and I said, listen, this is, we are specialized in this, and that, but I'm going to tell you that I will not recommend you go through this, even though it is a service that I offer. Do not do this because this is just not going to help push you forward in what you're looking to do in this instance with this specific offer. So I think that integrity first is something that is just lacking a little bit in our industry because people are motivated by the quick buck or the quick revenue. But I've turned down clients saying, listen, I don't think I can help you in this instance. I wish you the best. If I can refer them to somebody that can help them, I would gladly do so. But I don't think that I can sleep well at night with, receiving, sending an invoice to a client or getting money when I'm in the deepest inside of me. I am sure that I'm not performing what is best for them at any instance.
Excellent. Yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, you have to sort of take that into consideration, and that's very commendable because a lot of businesses out there, they'll sort of go, well, yeah, let's just do this and this kind of thing. So
Right.
yeah, you need that integrity to say, hey, look, let's look at this a little bit differently, because these other elements are super, super critical for your success. And
Right.
yeah, I commend you that. Yeah, look, if the client's not sort of willing to, take that into account, then that's okay.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and at the end of the day, for example, if a client comes to me and says, "Listen, we need to reach the market quickly. We want an SEO effort here." To me, that sounds contradictory because, as you know, SEO can, in many instances, does take a lot of time. So if they insist that what they want is SEO, I will turn down that business because I just know that that will lead to disappointment on their end. They won't be reaching what they ultimately desire with what they're trying with the tactic that they're trying to buy into. So I won't even move forward. So it all goes back to what is your strategy? What are you trying to accomplish? And if you're working with us, then what my only course of action would be to recommend to the best of my knowledge and the best of my abilities what I think would be best for you. And then from there, it either works for them or it doesn't.
So taking that to the next step, what would you recommend, for your audience, for the audience of Breaking Digital? What kind of steps would you recommend they take to sort of, build up that success, build up that strategy? Could you outline that for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think just understanding what do they think is going to define success in their instance. Not, just leave aside the platforms, leave aside, the people that say, oh, webinars are the best thing to do right now because that gives you the most money, or social media. Just leave all that aside and look at your particular business. What works for you? What will end up spelling success for your particular business? And really sitting down and defining that. Once you do that, then do you really need to embark on all these platforms in order to be successful? Let me say this, Doyle. It really is not a sign of weakness if you're not on Twitter, or if you're not on Facebook. If it doesn't work for you at the end of the day, it's not a sign of weakness for your business. It's not going to make you look bad. What will make you look bad is trying to invest in something and then realizing that
it's not going to work. Yeah,
it's not going to work.
that's a fantastic way of saying it too.
Yeah.
You're not going to get punished for it, basically. You don't need to be everywhere. You really need to focus in on what's important to you and your audience.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So please continue.
Yeah. So from there, once you define what is success for you, then you can take a look at which of those tactics would be effective in order to reach that success and within the realm of your possibilities. So your possibilities include your resources, your available budget, et cetera, et cetera. The team that you have, whether you have a team or you work solo, but we all only have a limited amount of resources and time and things like that. So if we can determine that, 3 out of 10 possible tactics that we've determined that will move us forward, we really only have the resources to dedicate to 3 of them, then let's do those 3 in the best way possible, in the best way, both creatively and strategically, the way that really represents our business in the right way, and that, yields a results for us at the end of the day. And then after we do that, then just, create our plan, whether it's a content plan or an engagement, an awareness plan, whatever that is, just making sure that we can put all our efforts behind it and do a fantastic job at it, and then look at our success from there.
But doesn't that take a lot of time, a lot of work?
Well, that goes back to the notion that selecting channels that are not useful. Let me put it this way. If I determine that my efforts have a return on the investment, then what is going to be my budget for those specific efforts? My budget is going to be infinite because I've realized that for X amount of resources that I invest in this particular tactic, my yield is positive. Therefore, I can justify investing more and more into that. And that goes, and I'm purposely not using money as the only measure of investment here. It's time, it's attention. We all have limitations in how much we can invest in these things. But again, if we've determined that this is actually positive, that yields a positive return, then why would we limit ourselves? This is effective for our business at this certain point in time. Then whether it takes time or it doesn't, we know that it's moving our business forward, and therefore it's deserving of that extra effort.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to sort sort of build in that return on investment. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense, and you kind of flip flop back and forth. One of the scourges of online now is, make 6 or 7 figures overnight type thing, and I think there's sort of that not sense of urgency, because it's not really that, but just that sense that, oh yeah, you can do this like really, really quick. You don't need to invest a lot of time or a lot of money, other than spending money for my course.
Yeah, exactly.
To get that success. And I really admire that. Yeah, you're talking the long game here. Like, let's talk return on investment. Let's say, okay, yeah, look, it's going to take time, it's going to take money, but if you have that strategy, if you have that sort of that creative vision up front, then that's really going to help you along that path.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and just think in a business sense, what is these business metrics seem to have been disconnected from this digital cloudy world.
Yeah.
And it's at the end of the day, it's all about there's going to be an investment. There has to be an investment in business, whether it's time, attention, current resources, money, whatever it is, there's going to be an investment. But the important thing is how much return we're deriving from that investment.
Yeah. And there was actually a post from Gary Vaynerchuk a couple days ago, and he's talking about return on investment, right? Mm-hmm. And he's kind of, well, he's quite the character. He's got quite the personality. Right. But his message is, look, our ROI is important, but you also have to realize that you can't calculate it for everything. It's also about, branding. It's also about, getting speaker engagements. It's also about, booking courses and that sort of thing. So there's that other side. Like, we kind of have to balance it between, yes, it's completely a numbers game, but we don't want to go to the other side to say, well, let's just let's just give it a go type thing,
right?
Without any understanding of the financials behind it, because that in itself is a recipe for failure.
That's a great point, and it's great to clarify that you bring that up to clarify to the audience that we're not saying that only invest or only dedicate yourself to what is a one-to-one return. Just kind of as if everything were direct response, a direct response effort. There is such a thing as reputation. There is such a thing as brand. There is such a thing as your identity in the marketplace, your differentiation factors, and those things are going to have an impact in the progress that you make as a business. But these are things that I think that are pretty easily identifiable, whether you're on the right track or not. And if not, like, let's say if your business experience is completely on the polar opposite of understanding good branding, then that's where you should recruit the help of an expert that can tell you, well, listen, I think we can refine this. I think you can change this. And that's where our work as people that work in branding becomes valuable and becomes a help for those specific cases.
Yeah, no, absolutely. While you were just talking, Mark Zuckerberg phoned, and I was on a call. Sorry, I hope I didn't call through. But anyway, Mark called and said, hey, he wants to retire for a bit, and he wanted me to recommend somebody. So I said, hey, Alex is the man. So what's the first thing you would do, Alex? Working for Facebook.
If I were to take over Facebook,
yeah,
that is a very interesting question. Facebook is a fascinating social channel, and one that I'm sure you experience the same thing. We have a love-hate relationship with. There are some things that we absolutely love, the ability to connect with people that, we have not seen, and new people, make new friends.
Let's not talk about the new emoticons, though. Please.
I was perfectly not going to talk about that.
Okay.
But Facebook does have some challenges in terms of the privacy aspect. Has always been a challenge, and still to this day has been raised questions on what is Facebook doing with my data? How can I be more private? How can I limit abuse of data and information and private information? So I'm one that I believe that the future of social media, one of the aspects of the future of social media is that I think we've had enough of the open conversation and racing for likes and racing for shares. I tend to believe that that has kind of had its time, and now we're really interested in more deep human engagement. I myself, I use Facebook mostly for the chat function and the messenger function and the groups function. Those are the two things that I go to Facebook the most for. And of course, I do post on my profile and do things like that. But if anything, if I were to take over Facebook, I would strengthen those two things and also maybe motivate brands to look into those two spaces specifically, to see how can you serve your customers better through more private one-to-one and smaller niche conversations rather than the whole Facebook page and get more likes and things like that. I tend to think that we're over that. Not that it's not effective, not that people have not had success with that, but for the majority of brands and businesses around the world, I think that having an online group like your excellent online group, it's a much better way to communicate and engage on a more deep, meaningful manner.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's taking it from that broadcast sense of, just blurting everything you can
Right.
out, to be more sort of in tune with, well, who's listening, what are they listening to, and being more, yeah, it's moving towards back to, I guess, not necessarily face to face, but person to person kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that's really important as we see the social media landscape and digital for that matter expand. It's really, how do we create those specific conversations,
Absolutely.
those one-to-one conversations?
Absolutely. And those conversations become very meaningful. They have a much more lasting impression than, the cute post or the viral video and things like that. When you tell a customer, hey, I see you have an issue, don't worry, we'll solve it, or great feedback, let's implement that into our offer, that customer remembers you as a brand that cares, a brand that listens, a brand that is in tune with their audience. So these are things that I think have a deeper, more lasting impact.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Mark said that you're hired, by the way, so
Glad I'll wait for that contract and FedEx.
he said, yeah, he said he's sending you an email. So, and if you forward it, if you share it with 5 friends, he'll actually send you an extra $1 million.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's awesome.
Cool. So you, going back to sort of your book and what you do, you were actually sort of kind enough to be able to offer a gift to our audience. So maybe you could go into a bit more detail. What do you like and why you'd like them to take that on?
Yeah, I'd love to invite your listener, your audience, to visit us at creativestrategytips.com/breaking digital. It's a very specific, unique page for your audience where I have 3 gifts there. The first gift is a few sample chapters of my book, Digital Bacon, completely for free. They can just go and download it and see what the book is all about. The second gift is an ebook that I am planning on rewriting this year. I put it out a few years ago, but I'm planning on rewriting it. But they can see it in this first edition, so to speak. It's called the Creative Strategy Manifesto, and this book goes back to the ideas we talked about at the beginning of this conversation on the importance of thinking strategically and creatively at the same time. And it's more than anything a motivation for entrepreneurs and business owners to think in both of these realms to have success in their business. So that's also available for download. And then the third gift is another ebook, which is mostly in the form of a checklist, and it's called The Attraction Checklist: 76 Tips to Make Anything More Attractive. And I've built this checklist specifically for people that maybe have an internal team, maybe they have their assistant working on their marketing, or maybe they work on their marketing themselves, but they don't have the benefit of having an advisor or a consultant saying you should do this, you should do that. So what this ebook has, it's basically a checklist. You pull out your checklist, and when you're writing copy or when you're developing graphics, or even if you have a graphic designer working for you, you can pull out this checklist, and basically it's a quality control checklist, and see whether your piece is in line with what I understand is what makes these creative expressions attractive. So it's a very useful resource, and that is also there. I'm going to repeat the URL. It's creativestrategytips.com/breaking digital. And this is a gift to your audience.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Alex. Really appreciate that. And it's fantastic that you've sort of tied in together that content with your strategy, with your creativity as well. And you obviously have a lot of experience in that field. So really, really thank you for sharing that. So everybody take a look, creativestrategytips.com/breakingdigital. And let's have a go. So in closing, really want to thank you, Alex. You've been a fantastic guest. Is there anything else you wanted to add at all about digital?
Well, no. First of all, thank you so much. It's an honor to get to know you above anything, and you were here at our offices here in Tampa a few weeks ago, and it was awesome to meet you in person. And I love your show, and I'm very honored to be a small part of what you're trying to do here. But I think my recommendation to your audience would be to really just go forward. One of my sayings, and I never get tired of repeating it, is shoot high. By shoot high is just in two words. What I'm saying is don't conform yourself with just aiming high. Just shoot. Just go for it. Go for it 100%. The worst that can happen when you shoot high is that you gain a valuable lesson. Meaning that if you don't reach the goal that you're going for, at least you learn something in the process. But you're aiming. The best thing that can happen is that you do reach those high goals. So shoot high. Go for it 100%. Believe in what the quality, the value that you're bringing to whatever market you're playing in, and just go for it.
Yeah, that's some excellent words of advice. And get it out there, because your competitor is, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to get out there. And with digital, it's like an ongoing process. You're always in that improvement stage, but don't let that sort of slow you down.
Yeah, and another of my sayings is that everything is an experiment, Doyle. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people are just hesitant. Oh, should I do this? Listen, we are all measuring, we're all improving, we're all tweaking along the way. Just go for it, and you'll realize what needs to happen once you deploy it. But do things in the right way. Take advice from people like you who offer excellent advice. Just take it. That will serve you as the beginning guidelines of what you're going to do. But in the process, regardless, you will have an opportunity to correct and improve. So just go for it. Just start taking those steps.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, Alex. For those who are interested, pick up his book on Amazon, on his website, or just search for Digital Bacon. And thanks again, Alex, from yummymarketing.com. Twitter handle is @ALXRODZ. And it's been a fantastic podcast with you. I really, really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and insights in terms of digital strategy, online marketing, and that overarching sort of field of digital leadership, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say just thank you as well for doing your part. You're doing an excellent job as well. And I also look up to you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Blushing. All right. Anyway, so thanks again, Alex. And for everybody else, thanks for listening. We really appreciate your time, and we'll see you again online. Thank you very much for listening to Breaking Digital, the podcast for smart entrepreneurs wanting to become true digital leaders in their industry and to own online. If you have any comments on the program, please feel free to connect on Twitter @Doyle Bueller with the hashtag #OwnOnline. I would really appreciate it if you could share this podcast with your network, as I'm sure they will get some value from it for building their successful business online as well. You can find the resources that we talked about, as well as the transcript and full podcast for download on thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast, or on iTunes, or on SoundCloud. I'm Doyle Bueller, and I will see you online.
Thank you for listening to Breaking Digital with Doyle Bueller. While he goes and makes a sandwich, you can find all of the notes, links, and details on this podcast by visiting thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. Go on and click that now. www.thedigitaldelusion.com/podcast. I'll definitely click that. If you'd like a free copy of the book, The Digital Delusion, How to Overcome the Misguidance and Misinformation Online, just send an email to doyle@thedigitaldelusion.com. See you online.